Tenko Shimura was just a sweet, shy boy who loved superheroes.
But sometimes the hand of fate can't abide sweet, shy boys.
Ruthlessly beaten and abused by his hero-hating father, Tenko pushed beyond his emotional limits until he activated his inherent superpower, or quirk.
It wasn't something cool like flight or super strength. In his terror, he accidentally killed his whole family. Well, except for dear old dad. That one was intentional.
Tenko wandered the streets alone, silently begging for someone, anyone, to help him. If only a hero was there to save him. But instead, the only open hand he found belonged to the devil.
All for one, the greatest supervillain in history.
He took Tenko under his wing, feeding a hatred of everyone and everything, and grooming him to one day lead his league of villains in destroying hero society.
With that came a new name, Tomura Shigaraki, and an absolutely nightmarish quirk, Decay. It does what it says on the tin. Anything Shiggy touches with all 5 fingers turns to dust. The perfect power for someone who just wants to destroy. Pretty menacing, if not for that dorky-ass costume. I get it, hands are his thing, but come on, they just look so dumb and fake.
Oh, those aren't prosthetics. Those are real hands from his family that he killed, attached to his face, and explicitly commanded to be left there by his mentor so that he would never forget his rage.
Okay.
While his use of Decay started off relatively weak, it rapidly increased in power and range as Shigaraki came into his own.
Decay isn't even limited to whatever he's touching. Anything that touches something he's decaying also decays.
Spreading like an all-consuming miasma that can wipe out anything from an enormous tower to an entire city.
If decay reaches you, your only hope is to isolate the body part that is disintegrating before it gets to something vital.
After years of training with the greatest supervillain of all time, Shigaraki was finally put in charge of his own team with one mission. He must kill his master's rival, the #1 hero, All Might.
Only to fall flat on his face.
Shigaraki was a terrible leader, quick-tempered, short-sighted, and, well...
Cringe! Oh, he's just so cringe. He uses gamer lingo unironically. He whines like a baby when things don't go his way. He's the kind of guy who would say normie in real life, in front of normies.
But they say defeat is the greatest teacher of all. Only through struggle could Shigaraki manifest his dark conviction.
Right as All Might's new protege, Izuku Midoriya, was coming into his own as well.
These two rivals, the inheritors of their master's blood feud, would push themselves past their own limitations.
Especially when All Might and All for One double KO'd each other, leaving Shigaraki to lead the League of Villains all by himself.
And with the stakes higher than ever before, Shigaraki stepped up. He personally battled the monstrous Gigantomachia for a month and a half straight, and conquered other villain organizations to create the Paranormal Liberation Front. Thousands of new soldiers for his personal army.
All to impress All for One's personal quack, Dr. Ujiko, who spent months upgrading Shigaraki's body to make it more like his sensei's. It might have been constant agony, but Shiggy went from Chud to Chad.
Ujiko's experimentation vastly increased Shigaraki's strength, speed, and durability, enough to match and surpass even All Might's absurd power.
Sharing All Might's power between them, Deku and Bakugo were able to punch an island-sized hole in a cloud that reached 24 miles into the sky. We've calculated that before to be nearly 80 million megatons of TNT, almost as much as the meteor that wiped out the dinosaurs.
And Shigaraki can now move fast enough that his body produces hypersonic shockwaves and can even catch laser beams.
And he's tough enough to survive Star and Stripes' Intercontinental Ballistic Cruise Punch! Now the new name for my penis. Move over, gigantic Omega Storm. Anyway, it also made a blast so big it showed up against the curvature of the Earth.
Though he might seem invincible, when Shigaraki's body is pushed hard enough, he will evolve into a state of uncontrollable power.
So Decay became? Oh shit, more hands!
Shigaraki can spontaneously generate flesh into existence, seemingly oceans of it in an instant, whenever he wants. He can even use it as a type of armor to defend himself in close combat.
But that's nothing compared to Ujiko's greatest gift. Shigaraki wanted to be the new All-for-One, so what better way than the old man's quirk?
All-for-One's quirk, All-for-One, allows its user to steal and store quirks with just a touch.
And All-for-One has hundreds of them stored up, collected over the years.
Each quirk is connected to a memory of its user's essence in the form of a spirit, a vestige.
Kinda like a piece of their soul. They exist in this kinda psychic world in Shigaraki's body, and can even act as a spiritual defense should it be invaded.
And with those vestiges came quirks like super fast healing, air blast, radio waves, flight, telekinesis, teleportation of others, and the ability to track foes.
He can even combine multiple quirks together, like in this big-ass electric Kamehameha.
However, any vestige stolen or destroyed will also remove that quirk from Shigaraki's repertoire. They're also sentient, and some can even fight for control.
Which is when the second shoe finally dropped. Because Shigaraki also got All-for-One's vestige, that means All-for-One was now in possession of a shiny new body that he'd spent the last 15 years molding for him to take over.
Shigaraki's entire existence was planned from the beginning. Why? Because All Might's previous mentor was Nana Shimura, Tenko's grandmother.
Oh, that to mess with All Might. That is some next level hating right there.
He manipulated Shigaraki's entire life, all for one purpose: to create a soul so corrupted it would grind away at All Might's perfect world, allowing All-for-One to take full control.
But All-for-One's possession wasn't complete, and Shiggy managed to fight his way back to the top, literally decaying his way through vestiges in the process, all to fight his rival Deku one last time.
Despite Izuku's best efforts to save him, Shigaraki was too far gone. His spirit decayed by years of venomous hatred.
And the new symbol of hope defeated the new symbol of fear, burying All-for-One's grudge for good.
All that Shigaraki asked was to be remembered as the heartless destroyer he was raised to be, and not the broken, angry, crying little boy he really was deep inside.
For just that one moment, though, Shiggy got in Deku the only thing he'd been denied his whole life, the one thing his lifelong nihilistic tantrum was really all about. He got a hero who tried to save him.